the reality of life. And so, no, I don't think that we need to be open minded and not racist and not, being mean to the aliens who might be the good guys. I think my personal opinion is that we should be cautious and prudent, but that's me. And the adults in this room and in the community are free to go out and call in the orbs. That's their prerogative. But don't come into the community and say that there's no cases of orbs abducting children, because there absolutely are.
Hey, French, do you think those are precursor experiences to things escalating, or do you think something about engaging with or interacting with them might itself be what leads to the more aggressive kind of abduction experiences?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I think it's both. Just looking at the abduction research and speaking with abductees, it's both because most abductees are lifelong abductees. They get started as infants and children and they go on until their old age, unfortunately. However, even when abductees engage in permissive behaviors, the activity can ramp up. And you can't distinguish many times between alien activity and paranormal activity. They kind of seem to follow each other around. And so you can have a lifelong abductee who's suddenly out, calling in the orbs and giving permission to the phenomenon, and the phenomenon will take advantage.
But it sounds like sometimes even without interacting with it, it escalates.
It can escalate. And then, are all orbs, aliens and UFOs coming to abduct your children? No, probably not. There is some argument to be made that some of this is our own creation. Some of this is egregore and tulpa type stuff when it comes to the orbs. So I'm not saying every orb is there to abduct your children. What I am saying is you're taking a chance. And even as an adult, taking a chance with the orbs, you're taking a chance of bringing that home, not just to you, but to your family. So again, we can choose to be responsible or, kind of free ball it and see what happens. And that's each adult's choice. But it's there, it's in the abduction research. When I speak, I'm not only speaking about my own personal experiences, I'm speaking about my experiences, abductees that I've spoken to over the last couple years, and there are many, and then just reading the abduction research. And you can read the research from both so-called sides of the aisle. You can look at Barbara Lamb's books and Yvonne Smith's books. They do not lean toward the negative threat narrative, absolutely not. But yet you can read in their books where women are being sexually assaulted on the ships by aliens. You can read about children being sexually assaulted on the ships by these aliens. So you don't have to come from the threat narrative like me and Chris and some other people in the room. You can just read the abduction research. And is it all 100% true, 100% infallible? Absolutely not. But it's what we've got right now.
Yeah, so I just got a thought to throw in there. So I think the vast majority of humans, maybe less, let's say psychopaths don't care about animals, but the vast majority of us do, right? We love animals. When we look into the eyes of our dogs or pets, we love them dearly. Even let's say cows. Like if any of us have been in close proximity with a cow, they're like these gentle giant creatures that just have nothing but like gentleness about them, right? And one who has a good heart could only feel goodness for him. But then we go home at the end of the day and we eat them. Okay, right? But we don't do that to our dogs. So let's maybe just focus on the dog thing. We sure as shit do take them, and I'm sure, friends, you've heard this from someone else. I'm sure someone has who have posed this to you before. So I'm sure I'm repeating this narrative to you from someone else. But we take our dog to the vet. That dog has no idea what the hell is going on except that it's a traumatizing, horrific experience. And I am not justifying sexual abuse of children, certainly, or any traumatic experiences for humans. I don't think that's right. And I don't support, I would say, bad aliens, please don't do that. Um, but a lot of these species may see us like that of dogs, but we love our dogs. I think most of us love our dogs dearly, but we also know that we are vastly superior to a dog. And when I hear like Chris getting upset about stuff like that, I mean, it is what it is. Like, I know you said once, Chris, they said we will be here and everyone will know their place. And I think, yeah, like, what's wrong with that? I know my place. I'm not a police officer. I'm not a governor. I'm not a senator. I'm not sure, shit, not the president. I know my place in this world. I think we all do, unless we have some social, you know, disability or social, you know, I forget the term. So,
But you're misunderstanding it entirely.
so explain
What
it to me then.
what the Gray was saying, and they've said it to me many times, is that they will live here and they will decide what our place in their new society will be. And we see from the way we're treated by them where our place will be. And that will be as a mind controlled worker, slave, breeding stock. They don't intend to come here and, oh, you're an airplane photographer or you're an investigator. No, they will determine what we do, and they have no interest in anything that we value, in any of our values. So he was basically bragging that when they when they're all here, we will be at the very bottom, and they're very highly regimented. They're very much so. They're not in a we're all equals kind of bunch of people. There's the mantis who give the orders to the tall grays, who give the orders to the small grays, who are scared to death of disappointing their superiors. So that's what he was saying to me. He wasn't saying that, when they come here, whatever you do is going to be your thing, man. Oh, you're a bongo player? Great. We can use those in our ant colony. See, they're very inhuman in a lot of ways. They're just, they're kind of they are a hive mind. They're all linked together, and uh, they're like space communists, quite frankly, where the individual doesn't really matter. It's the state or the hive or the race or the colony that matters. And like any ant hill or beehive, they're interested in acquiring resources and acquiring territory. And they're not going to join my ska band. They're not going to read like Elizabethan poetry and go, you know what? We were so wrong to rape your kids. It's not going to happen. You know, but it's a good discussion. Hey, 369, how are you, sir? And Miss McGillicuddy is here. And Christina. Oh, and Hella. All of my favorite people in one place. And B, of course.
Well, my last, well, I don't see any hands, and so that could be a glitch. So stop me if there is a hand up right now. But
There's a couple. There's a couple. Fringe has her hand up, and
oh,
so does
yeah, I
Craft
don't
Beards.
see any hands up. So sorry about that.
Mine should be down now.
Yeah, mine too. I don't have a hand up, but thanks, Chris.
I see him up, but you know what? Not good with technology.
Well, I just want to say, like, no matter what, I think probably all of us can agree on one thing. The ones that are kind of like the doomer experiencers and the ones that are like the love and light. I'm somewhere in the middle because I sure as hell do not believe all aliens are good. I just think that is an unintelligent perspective to have. So I'm somewhere in the middle of this, love and light doomer thing. I think the bad aliens are here. I mean, you're proving that with your stories, Chris. They've been abducting you and your family for years, right? They've been here. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think like.
Fringe too. I mean,
Well, hold
they
on.
started
All right,
taking us
sir,
very young.
wait, just
But
hold on,
go ahead.
hold on.
Sorry.
You have an exceptional prowess at interrupting, and I know you don't.
Well, you did say my name. I thought you were asking my opinion on what you just said.
We'll
Go right
we'll
ahead.
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree, like the ones that have been abducted and are traumatized, and the ones that have had no bad experiences, which is like myself, in which I've also had profoundly good experiences. Actually, I think we can all agree that something is coming. Right? We can all kind of feel it, and we're gonna know who's. Well, that's speculative because if there is some, counterintelligence plan that they know there's no chance in winning some sort of war, right? But they can make us all fear them, stay away, don't do CE5, whatever you do, they're bad because they know they're coming. They're going to integrate no matter what. I would just say let's see what the aliens do. Like, let's not listen to our own fears necessarily. Let's just pay attention to what they do, because eventually they're going to reveal their true intentions, right? Like we can't just go to our grave saying they're bad, they're bad, they're bad, and then nothing bad happens outside of the abductees that have had bad things happen. I'm saying once they come and they integrate, let's see what they do. Because no matter what, if Michio Kaku is right, they're 200,000 years ahead of us. And there's nothing we can. They are the masters. Full stop. They are the masters, okay? Whether we like it or not, whether it's fair or not, doesn't matter, right? Reality doesn't care about our feelings. They are so far advanced from us. We are, shit out of luck when it comes to options. So let's just see what they do before we like say they're all evil, all bad. I think the bad ones are here. I think, and if they're working with the government, those are the bad aliens. That's what I think. I think there are some bad aliens that have been here for a while that probably broke some treaties that should not be happening, where they're working with governments, not just the U.S., maybe other governments as well, and the government is feeding them children. That's highly possible, if not probable. I'm on board with that, guys. I think that's very possible. Those are definitely not the good aliens, and our government is working with them. So let's see what happens next. Maybe, just maybe, and I'm going to shut up. I'm not probably going to be done talking for the day on this space after this. Maybe, just maybe, there is a benevolent, loving, separate species coming to freaking rescue us in the next couple of years. Wouldn't that be cool? It's a possibility. Anyways, that's it.
Okay. All right. Great. Yeah, it would be cool. It would be cool if Fonzie rode in on a unicorn and saved us from our problems. But and I do hear a lot of people talking like that there's a galactic federation and they're just rounding up enough men to come in and stop the Greys from stealing your kids and touching them in the places where they shouldn't and making them carry embryos of monsters. I don't see it. It's been 70 years. Where are they? They take the long way? Are they coming by Greyhound bus? Because these have been going on for 70 years. And you say, let's not judge, let's not say they're bad until we see what they do. You're forgetting that a lot of us in here have seen what they do. I've seen what they do since the Johnson administration. And if you don't remember who he was, let's just say it was a long time ago. We have enough to decide that they're terrible. Doesn't mean anybody has to agree with us, but we're not jumping to conclusions. We are dealing with our what we know our reality to be. So I get what you're saying. I get it.
Welcome to
Miss
the space,
McGillicuddy, Miss McGillicuddy, you have your hand up. Oh, I'm sorry,
Hi.
B.
Oh, hello. Hey. I think uh, I hear people saying, or excuse me, it was just the gentleman who was up before, and he had said something about the feeling and it's not and see what they're just wait and see what they're going to do. Well, there's some truth to that, but for me, I feel like it's more a sense of discernment, and it's kind of like if I had had a really horrible narcissistic boyfriend and someone, even maybe someone I don't know, or I just, or it's someone I know, either one, and I hear them mention that person, if I'm a good person, having survived that horrible narcissistic relationship, I might give that person a heads up and be like, hey, that person's really toxic. And I kind of feel like that's what's happening. That's kind of the placement for us experiencers who have experienced the narcissistic darkness that is involved in a lot of this. Um, we have at least for myself, I'll speak for myself, and I know there's other people in here who have as well. We've experienced that niceness, which in psychology would call love bombing, and that love bombing works for a while until you don't comply with whatever you're supposed to do as your role of supply. That's how I felt. Okay, that's how I feel when they do what they do. I feel like they're like, and so I fight back. I fight back now. They don't like it, but I look at my own experiences as um almost a spiritual training, as sorts that um, is going to make us the kind of person that might be pretty valuable to those who have only experienced the love bombing portion when the mask slips. Because it's very, like for me, it was very apparent when that mask slipped on these things, the stuff that's happening, has been happening to me. And uh, they definitely don't like the ones that can see past the mask, right? And whatever, joke's on them. But I have friends she mentioned earlier in regards to like the hitchhiking thing, fully experienced that myself. Okay. And if you're an adult and you don't have any kids, do whatever you want. But um, this is a I have a strong opinion from my experiences that this is very much a situation where you can go ahead and date that narcissistic guy that I gave you a warning about. Okay, go ahead. I can't stop you. Um, but this is an opportunity for some people to maybe heed to learning from our experiences. Like there are ways to learn lessons through other people, and it's wise to discern that might be a good route to take. We've kind of lost that concept of like listening to your elders, or listening to people who have been through it. Because some of us who've been through it, we can get labeled crazy, especially in this community. But you can tell when we're being genuine about it. And hey, life's about free will. I get it. But if I could stop anyone and warn them ahead of time, especially with the hitchhiker thing that happened with my kids, if I could warn them from my experience and be like, "Hey, I get it. I don't have photographs. I don't have video, but this is what happened. You know, Please be careful." Um, you know, uh, it's not up to me if they take it for a grain of salt or not, or for gospel, but it's definitely something I feel like we should have some grace with each other for. And I mean, if we're determined, if someone is determined to learn on their own, that's their choice. But um, yeah, like to me, it just feels like it literally feels like, and I've had them, horribly narcissistic relationship partners, and man, that's what this whole experience has been for me. Um, and I, I just think if we can just at least heed, hey, if you want to wait and you want to see what they do, it's I don't know. I don't want any, I don't know the future, but I- I've seen what the narcissists do. It's not pretty, and they don't care. They don't have the empathy for it. And if it's because they're more intelligent than we are, for me, I don't think it's intelligent. I think they're more manipulative by nature than we are. And that's just gross to me. So I guess this is my 2 cents of saying, be careful. You don't want to date this narcissistic boyfriend. Um, so just, yeah, I mean, we're not trying to say that people don't have good experiences. I did. I did too. You know, they told me I was a goddess, all these kinds of things. That was super powerful and super special. And then, you know, they rape you a couple times. It sure doesn't feel very special. So, um, yeah, just, I think it would be smart, and I'm not trying to be special here, okay? But I think it would be smart to really listen to the ones that have been through the stuff that has led us to, for us, the truth, our truth being enough to where we want to warn people about it, that this is not love and light, you know? And I don't think Fonzie had a unicorn, but I don't think Fonzie could even save us with a unicorn to be real. I mean, Indiana Jones seemed a lot tougher if it came down to leather. But yeah, just it doesn't hurt to want to have hope. But that is, I think, why I think they hate, I know for a fact they hate that about me. They hate that I have hope and that I'm resilient and that they created their own worst enemy because they know I like to talk obviously, and you know, and I'm not afraid to tell people the truth, even if they don't like me and they think I'm crazy and they make fun of me. I don't care.
Thanks, Miss McGillicuddy. And I think what you're saying is so important because going back to that to the speaker, and I unfortunately I don't see him in the room anymore, questioning about the orbs. There are so many stories just like yours. They told me I was a goddess. Um, this is what they do. They try to make you feel special. They might tell you you're a goddess. They might tell you, that right now there's an entire faction of the UFO community being contacted by entities saying that they are the old gods returning and that our bodies are their avatars and that there's going to be a war, between good and evil. And they tell us all kinds of things, all kinds of nonsense. And if you end up as a project in the abduction research, a lot of those people start seeing through the lies. And then, a whole other level gets kicked in. I like to say I was kicked up the food chain, and that's when the punishment started, is when I started seeing through the lies. I started out in the love and light shoes. I believed these were our space brothers, ETs from outer space. I didn't have a clear picture as to what they were doing and why, but never did I think, that this was some horrible activities going on. So I did not start out in this camp of trying to, like Miss McGillicuddy says, warn people. And like Chris says, it is our sworn duty as human beings to warn people about the phenomenon, about what is happening to abductees. Even abductees who still believe the live and light side, they will acknowledge that they are taken from their bed, their children are taken from their bed against their will, and they have medical procedures performed on them. They have sperm and eggs stolen from them, and that there are hybrids being created. If somehow you can become okay with that in your mind, that is, in just my personal opinion, that's just a survival mechanism. It's not common sense. It's not looking at it from as an outsider looking in on what's happening. Any outsider would go, oh crap, that's not okay. I wouldn't want these things taking my children. And frankly, I don't care what their motive is. I don't care if it's like taking a dog to the vet. I'm not your dog. You're not taking me to the vet. So yeah, I think it's important to understand many of us didn't come to these conclusions lightly. We're not just bringing our fear, to the topic. It's called logic and common sense. What they are doing is not okay. And yes, many, if not most of us, started out not having a full understanding of the big picture and believing we're just seeing an orb in the sky or lights in the sky, or you're my star family. That's their favorite one. We're your star family. You gaslighting techniques they use on experiencers. And again, if you could look at it from the outside looking in, you'd go, oh my gosh, that person's an idiot, right? But no, when you're in it, it's very, very hard to see. And so people like us who have already been there and have already done that are trying to warn people like you who might not be able to see clearly. Thank you, Miss McGillicuddy.
I would be very much interested in seeing some of that literature about the orbs. The friends, I would love it if you've got any kind of links or study material for that. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I have so much of the abduction research. I can just do a word search on that and probably send you a couple of things. But it's everywhere, you guys. There are orbs who have turned into entities, orbs turn into gray aliens, orbs turn into full-blown UFOs. They turn into all kinds of different things, and they're not good. None of them are good. And if you just look at, I have now witnessed at least 5 people in this community, and I've predicted it every single time. I've witnessed people in this community who start out with the orbs, and the thing about the orbs is that orbs want you to think you're special, that you can call in the orbs or you can see the orbs. And then people go downhill and they become obsessed. And everyone has heard the famous line where I've said it's like crack, and I'll say it again. It's like crack. It's like becoming an addict. They want you out there obsessed with the orbs and obsessed with calling in the orbs and obsessed with seeing something out there. What benevolent entity would want you obsessed, going outside, hiding in closets, not going to your job? Maybe you're going to get fired. Maybe you end up in a psych ward. I think many of us have watched people in this community go downhill. I'm not talking about any one person. I'm talking about a handful of people I've seen this happen to. It's the same story every time. That is not a benevolent entity. Benevolent entities do not want you not going to your job, maybe getting a divorce, maybe ending up in the psych ward or on medications, so that you become obsessed with them. That's not benevolent behavior. That's not what a higher level, a higher consciousness being would want from a human being. So, yeah, the orbs are not good. um, and I just lump them in with all the other activity, and none of it seems to be very good.
You're my hero, Fringe. I want to be you when I grow up. Thank you for that. You're so well spoken.
Well, thank you, Chris. You give me the comedic relief this topic really needs.
Is it orbs specifically, or any kind of unidentified craft that people see?
No, I just think it's the phenomenon in general. The phenomenon in general, whether you want to call it aliens or nuts and bolts UFOs, nuts and bolts physical abductions, all the way to the paranormal supernatural side of it. If it's here and engaging with us, it's probably not good. It probably doesn't have great intentions. That's my personal opinion, and that's just across the board. Just having a lot of experience with all of those things.
Would you include mediumship in that? Because in that context, there's something obviously engaging with us, not always or necessarily in a harmful way.
Yeah, I do. I include mediumship. Any contact modality, which mediumship is a contact modality. Any contact modality, you're dipping your toe into shark infested waters.
It's almost as if the Bible had a good reason for prohibiting such things.
Well, it almost is, Craft, and that's a whole other story that most people do not want to entertain, including myself. I was a hardcore Christian when I got sucked into a lot of these contact modalities. I never thought I would engage in any of these activities because of my religion, yet there I was, neck deep in contact modalities. So again, I'm speaking from experience. I'm not just saying, oh, I'm a Christian, I believe in the Bible, so you shouldn't go do that. I actually thumbed my nose at those ideas and did it anyway, and I ended up paying the price for it.
And there's a demonologist. I think actually you had him on your spaces. Nathaniel Gillis. I think it was him, or may have been a different one. That kind of framed it in a different way that I never thought of. He called it necromancy, any kind of communication or contact with the dead. And for some reason, maybe I play too much Dungeons and Dragons. I never thought about that being a form of necromancy.
Yeah, Nathaniel Gillis is really good at bringing some of the old ways and the old occult rituals. I shouldn't say old. I mean, they're still probably still going on to this day, of entities trying to impregnate women, to carry on their species. It seems as old as time.
And I love how Nathaniel also on what you're talking about there, French, is how he brings that concept which I dealt with, which was spirit spouse, spirit children. It's oddly looks a lot like what the hybrid program looks like on the UFO side, and it it's why I mean, shoot, it's the same thing. There's no flower petals on the ground and candles and a beautiful experience. It's paralyzed and taken advantage of, and then bragged about how, like, because I used to channel. I used to do channeling and automatic writing, when I thought I was a goddess. And the stuff that would come out, just like a lot of occult and witchcraft, it'll it gives you that false sense of knowing, knowledge, power. Because some of it's true, it's all peppered with truth, right? But that makes it easier to go down. But then there'd always a darkness behind it, just like when they were like, oh, I got channeled that the strange things that were going on around my house were my spirit babies. It's like, what? I mean, um, that does not sound at all benevolent. I mean, that happened without my free will, and and then it's haunting me. That like it's it's just mind-boggling to me that and I get it. There's people if they, I just sound like I'm batshit crazy, but I know I'm not alone. That's the most comforting thing that I've gotten. Shout out to Vicki Joy Anderson. She's been such an amazing mentor and comfort, and she's a beautiful woman. Uh, and Nathaniel's work, um, and stuff's real. It's a tale as old as time, right? Nothing new under the sun. Um, they just rebrand it. They just rebrand it to what's gonna sell to each user. By the way, each person. You know, there's a commonality of themes that'll run around. Those are like the top brands. Like if this was all consumerism, it'd be the Tide and the Coca-Cola and the Pepsi. There's, it's the you're a goddess and whatever the label is. But each person, some people are Coke people, some people are Pepsi people. Whatever it is, it's going to make it fit. That to me, that's just that's super manipulative. And I don't mean to get sidetracked, but I knew the moment that there's two moments I knew that this was some messed up ish. These things was uh, obviously when stuff was happening to my kids, still is, but it was when they came for me and they looked, and then this time they looked like your typical little grays and tall grays. Um, but they kidnapped me in my own home when I was a kid. There's all this imagery that they'll do, and they made me shoot some guy. And I was just like, what? What is this? Like, I didn't get a good feeling from the guy, but they, I'm not, it's like, what is this? And that was when they were still telling me and still channeling through me and telling me they're talking to me through my tarot cards. And, I mean, for the most part, they showed themselves as entities. Um, and by entities, I mean maybe more of on the demonology side, pretty ones and ugly ones. But once they did that, I was like, all right, I see what's up. So you're all, as far as I'm concerned, you're all up in the same business. You're all in the same team, and that team is super cruel. Like anyone who's manipulative or who's been in a narcissistic relationship, you know, family, friend, or partner, it's like it's maddening, right? And it's a no go. But I can see it from a mile away now. So. Just be careful, people. Trust me, once they start hitchhiking on even the people you love, they could be hitchhiking onto your animals for all you know. You know? It's very spiritual. Just be careful.
If I could, Miss McGillicuddy, I'd like to ask a question. But first, let me say I'm actually an RC cola guy rather than Coca Pepsi, and I do want to complain. They have never called me a goddess, not once, not even close. They said I was somewhere between a 4 and a 5. Okay, I thought that was like, well, first of all, you just woke me up out of bed, so give me a chance to doll myself up before you give me a rating like that. Okay, just it's cruel. It's more evidence of their cruelty. But I want to ask you a question, if I can, and this goes for Fringe and anyone else here who would like to talk about that has seen the Greys. And that is, before I ask it, I want to thank B. This is the kindest room I've ever been in, or space, or whatever you kids call it on the interwebs. There's nobody attacking us, and it's strange. It's strange, but there's a lot of powerhouse minds in here. So, one by one, they try to pick us off, but I think they just decided to leave us alone. I, but my question for you, Miss McGillicuddy, and I love the way you describe things, and Fringe, you as well, and anyone else who's seen the Greys, give me one detail about what they look like. Like, what's something you noticed about them? Because I don't think the public has a great picture of them. And to be honest, they didn't like me really looking at them in the face. And, if you'll meet their eyes, it's just inviting trouble. So, I mean, I know what they look like, but are there any little details that you can think of?
Well, in the one where they brought me back to a childhood home, um, I was small. I physically felt small, or maybe that was, whatever. But um, they were uh, doing the same. And by they, I mean, it's to me, it's all the same, right? Because I'll tell you, you say, what did they look like? This one, I think that was where they were just trying to be like, I wonder if she'll go for this thing, maybe she'll be scared of this if we show up this way. Um, but thankfully, that my healing had and strength and discernment had jumped up some notches, way more than maybe they thought. Um, but when I came, I was running for looking. All of a sudden, in the house, there was all of this noise, um, like music playing or something, and it was like in the middle of the night. But all the windows were open, so you could see the outside, and they just kind of were. As soon as my eyes would catch a window, a little face would poke up, and it looked stereotypical of what and then, but it was when the child in me, I tried crying out for my parents, and nothing would come out, of course, because I was paralyzed. And I didn't run to the room. I I was all of a sudden in my parents' room, and I was trying desperately to say anything. And I could hear in my own head me screaming. But I looked, as soon as I realized, I just got this presence of, oh yeah, I know what's going on. And I looked to my left in the corner of the room on the other side of my parents' bed. There was one just uh, standing because it was short, and it was just looking at me. And it was odd because I took the tips from Vicki Joy Anderson, which I know now in these experiences, is to look for the glitches. And they were glitching. His face was glitching. Its face was glitch, and by glitching I mean it was kind of morphing. It still had the black eyes, which I always see in the spirit, anyways. But it was like it wouldn't show me the face. I could see the whole body. Well, what wasn't being blocked out by the bed, and I somehow broke free of this paralysis and was able to grab my dad. And this gets really messed up because they were total talk about just cruel. Um, I go to get my dad, and I'm not able to talk still, but I'm able to sit my dad up in the bed, and I'm trying to turn him to point him at this thing to tell him, like, look, look, look. And in my mind, stupid gray. It's I don't know how you could imagine smugness on their face, but it was there. And in my mind, he tells me he can't do anything. He's dead now. Remember, my dad just passed away in March. And I was just like, you know what I did? In my mind, I told him F you, and I went over and I punched him in the face. Now, that's the first time I've ever done that to one of these. Not one that looked like an alien. I wrestle with all these other things all the time. But when I punched its face, I punched his face, and kind of like bent his neck, and then he goes, not like that. And then I was back in that same spot that I was before. And he goes, and in my mind, he says, you know what you need to do. It's what you don't want to do. And I knew what it was. What he was telling me is that you need to do the CE5 thing, because I've been being told that I need to do that, and I'm not going to do it, and I refuse, and I don't. Um, just a second, son. Just a second. And so just a second. Just a second. Sorry about that. Anywho, so it I knew that in my mind I knew, okay, shit, this is the only way I'm going to get out of this thing. So I closed my eyes, and it closed its eyes, and then all of a sudden everything was like wow, wow, like I had been pushed through a bubble, and I was in this big old white room, and it was standing next to me now, and it told me nobody can see us, you just be quiet. And it was like all the other ones, man, but this time they're just trying to show it like this. Um and then I saw, that was the first time I'd ever seen the tall ones though. No, I'm sorry, I apologize, I'm shaking a little bit, but I'm not afraid of these assholes, sorry. um and then this guy who was like a balding guy, he was eyeballing me from the side, and um I immediately knew my discernment was up. I was like, no, this is a crappy human. And I saw a door to my right, and I just decided, okay, I'm gonna go. So the gray, I couldn't hear him. He wasn't talking in my head, but I got the energy off of him, and it was like he was like, no, don't go. Like he didn't want me to, but I wasn't gonna stand there anymore. So I went through the door, pushed. It was like a double door, and then there was these like plastic long things in front of the door, like you would have in like a hospital or old hospital or like a meat freezer or something. I get out there, and then there's another one, and it's over by this other door. And the bald guy's there. He's grabbed my arm. He's on my left, and he has a gun. And there's a lady, and she has a gun. And the gray says, "Don't you dare shoot her." And I was like, and immediately all that stupid soldier warrior stuff that I've been doing and all of these things just kicked in, and I was able to break the gun out of the guy's hand, and I shot him. And the lady just evaporated. And in the stupid gray over by the door, he's like, "That's a good girl." And I just was so freaking pissed. So I shot it. And then I woke up, and then they came at me with some other night terrors for a couple nights after that. But I hate all of they got nothing on me. I'm not afraid of them. And I know that sounds whatever, but they love it when we're afraid, just like a narcissist. They love it when we're scared and we feel alone, and it's so messed up because they're doing this to kids. They're doing a lot of love bombing with that too, but they're just a bunch of liars. But they look like you think, and what was weird is when I punched it, I could feel it like its skin, and it just felt like some weird, more solid version of gack. You guys remember that from the 90s? Um, like it was malleable, but it almost felt more like a like a way to mess with my head, you know? I maybe that sounds weird, but that's what it felt like. But it was those eyes. It's the same eyes. It's the same eyes that everybody, all the dark stuff that comes to me has. It could be look like a person, but it's got those just all black eyes. Same thing. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of them. They know that, but they can't break me. So sorry, long story short, that's what they look like.
Thanks, Miss McGillicuddy. B, I did send you a passage, so I reached my limit of sharing on that book, but I sent you just a passage of something I just found right away. And to one of Miss McGillicuddy's points, if you want to talk about the orbs and Nathaniel Gillis, they've orbs have been appearing in supernatural from supernatural activities like seances and stuff. I think even long before the UFO phenomenon or before they started appearing as they're doing now. Chris, to answer your question, I only see grays maybe 25 to 30% of the time. I largely see what I believe are hybrids. The hybrids, they started out looking very, very frail with very thin hair and somewhat unusual looking, and now they look very human. So when I see grays, I've seen several different types of grays. I think the majority of what I see, they remind me of very short old men or kids with progeria. They have that kind of distinct look. I've seen the medium ones, bald. I've seen a short, very stocky one with like bluish looking colored skin. I've seen the one that I saw two times I was awake. I believe I was awake at least when I was a kid. These are may or may not be grays. I don't know what they were. They were very tall, filling up a 6-foot doorway, so taller than your usual. And they were very, very skinny, and they were much more white than gray. And then I've seen one with a very, very long neck with a very pointy chin and those big eyes. Now, the ones I see on the ships, they don't have giant eyes like that, as big as you see in the pop culture. And then I've seen white grays. I think they're grays, but they are white. They have very white, powdery white skin and smaller eyes, smaller black eyes. So, yeah, that probably covers it. I'm sure I'm forgetting something.
I absolutely love you, and that was so informative. I've seen a lot of those myself. I mean, the tall grays to me, they've always been much more white than like if I just saw them. They struck me as white when I was a little kid. They looked kind of like ghosts to me, and they were often appeared with like a cloak, a black cloak. So the eyes looked dead, and I think to me the tall grays slash whites, they look like the belly of a fish. That kind of white where there's some gray in it, but it feels cold and not like there's warm blood running through it at all. And you mentioned the blue tinged ones. I have seen them. Um, I don't like to bring it up because I've never really had anybody else say so. But they were much like grays, but there was a little bit of a blue tinge to them. They were shorter, the shorter ones. But yeah, I've seen them, and I was being taken in a smaller craft to a bigger one, and two of them were like pilots, if you want to say that, and they were working the things. And from where I was, even though I was paralyzed, I had a really good look at the back of this one's head, and I'm mapping the details where there was like a bit of a seam of flesh going down the center and an indent in the back of the cranium, and I'm really paying attention. It suddenly he whips around and screams at me telepathically, uh stop staring at me. And you could feel this wave of emotion, anger, like hits you like if you're at a concert and you're standing in front of the bass speakers. It just boom. So, but I've never really talked to anybody else who had seen them. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. It seems these days that the grays only come out for me when they're trying to get me to do something, and I'm not as under their control as they would like. I think that's when the bigger guns come out, because honestly, I think I'm dealing with a lot of hybrids. They have a unique energy signature type thing. Chris, how everything is just known, and you just know what's going on and who's who in the zoo. It's just known. And I believe they're hybrids, but they look human, and they've kind of taken over these activities of the unfortunate gynecological exams and all the medical stuff that they do. There's a lot of what appear to be humans involved now. It's almost like the grays have been a little bit more elevated now, and then you have the hybrids doing the more menial work. So it's kind of what it's seeming like. Speaking with Amy, Abductee Journal, I think she believes the same. It seems like the grays are now doing the better jobs. And whatever these things are, these hybrids that they've been breeding now for decades, are kind of stepping up into their role.
Well, it's good to see them all grown up with a good job, isn't it? But that's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, that Sean is still taken once in a while, and there are grays, but he has seen hybrids as well. Yeah, very fascinating. You're great to talk to, and same with you, Miss McGillicuddy. I you know, um, you've been through a lot, both of you. I have not, so I have deep respect and understanding, and not understanding, but you know, I I really can't say how, so I'll stop rambling. Sorry.
And Chris, getting back to Jonathan's point, Jonathan said, well, let's just wait and see what they do.
Right.
Wait a minute. Let's just look and see what they're actually doing right frickin' now. How about we start there? I don't think things are going to get any better.
Yeah. Well, let's just wait. They've only bred
Give it a
you.
chance. We'll give them a chance.
Yeah, that's right. All right. But this is the last time you breed me like livestock. I'm going to give you another chance. I know you've taken me 200 times and done terrible things to me, but you're on the edge. Don't keep going. But I'm going to reserve judgment. Thanks. Yeah, it's just someone who doesn't really get what we're saying.
Well, it's hopium, I think. I think it's human nature, and I think it can be healthy, to have hope and to be hopeful. And by the way, B, thanks for letting the doom take over your room. I appreciate it. And getting back to a couple of Jonathan's points, I don't care. I do not care what their motive is. I don't care if they don't understand us. I don't care if they can't speak our language, which is absolute nonsense in the first place. I don't care if they see us as cattle. I don't care if they're saying that they want to upgrade our consciousness. I don't care. Stop taking me, stop taking children and grandchildren out of their beds against our will. Knock on the front door and ask me if I would like to participate in your nonsense. And by the way, you better be bringing some money with you, because I'm sure they studied us long enough to know that there are so many people who would die to get on the UFOs. John Ramirez, he's volunteering. Why don't you go take John Ramirez out of his bed and make some hybrids from John Ramirez, which I'm quite certain they have. Knock on the front door, offer me some money, and I'll think about it. But why aren't they asking for volunteers, Chris? Why are they taking
Right.
people it's happening against our will and our children?
Yeah, and you know
Knock
what?
on the door, ask for volunteers.
How
That
about
solves the entire problem.
yeah, call before you come over, frankly. There might be a show on we want to see that night. Set something up. Maybe write a letter. Dear human, I hope this letter finds you well. We're thinking about grabbing you and doing horrible things to you. How does Thursday the 13th sound? Yeah, and they owe me money. They owe you guys a lot of money, but they owe me a pretty penny. If you chalk up the hours of child labor, and through my 20s, oh my, they all I can say is that I could probably retire if they paid me what I was worth. And breeding stock, I don't get like a stud fee. That's this is like a Colonel Tom Parker Elvis relationship, just completely one-sided. So and another thing, I blame them for my grades. I really do. You go to bed, they take you for 3-4 hours, drop you off an hour before you have to wake up, and they wonder why you don't know what the capital of Colombia is in the morning. you know you're dazed, and kids can't even, there's no coffee in elementary school, so you just had to get by. You were this sleepy dullard whose mind is somewhere else. Yeah, it's somewhere else, all right. You don't even want to ask where. So yes, they owe. And we do hear the alien apologists saying, oh well, maybe they just don't know. Maybe where they come from, it's polite to barge in on a family in the middle of the night and you steal their most beloved children. It's probably like a holiday tradition. You know, it's it's ridiculous. They know exactly that it's wrong because they're inside our heads. And they know we know it's wrong. So they know that we know that they know it's wrong. It's wrong all the way around, and they're completely aware of it. The only thing is, they don't care. They just don't care. That's a me that's an us problem, not a them problem. You know. So yeah, it's so good to be able to talk to people who know what I'm talking about, and don't tell me, you're just a dog going to the vet. And just like you said, yeah, I'm not a dog. Okay. Well, I've heard that a lot. Well, a dog is scared of going to the vet, but it's for his own good. This is not for my own good. It's for their own good. And it's insulting, right? And facetious for people to feel comfortable enough to just, make obnoxious comments and excuses for what they do to us. It shows they're not taking what we say seriously. It's,
I think a lot of it is fear, Chris. I'd like maybe craft beer could weigh in on this. The other thing people love to say in this community is fear. People who are in fear or people who are of a low vibration are actually bringing, the fearful experiences, and it's just a reflection of our own psychology. I love that one because that absolves everyone. So if you're having a positive or what you believe is a positive experience, then you're, vibing high, and it allows for the negative experiences, but it's the experiencer's fault at that point, so that just makes everyone feel warm and fuzzy.
yeah, blame the victim.
Yeah, that's just victim blaming bullshit.
Craft beard, would it be kind of a form of Stockholm syndrome? The people who feel a kinship to these captors?
It could be. I certainly don't want to speak for anyone who's experienced this, but um, yeah, it could be one factor.
I do want to break in just real quick. I love the flow of the conversation, but I do know that Ophelia, Megan, and Miss all have hands up.
Oh, that's all I was gonna say was just that, it seems like a form of Stockholm syndrome. And yeah, it is really good for people to be able to talk about it because it's a trauma, and these things will try to trick you into thinking you're special, right? You're so special, we're contacting you. It's like, nah, homie, I ain't special. We're all human beings. We all bleed red, So don't let them do that. Don't let them play off of your, self masturbatory bullshit. Sorry, I just got to say it. Don't go outside in CE5 because there's entities that speak ancient languages that don't even exist anymore, that have been around for thousands of years and have history and knowledge of thousands of years that we don't even have in this realm. Probably don't want to go out there and say, I'm a vessel for you. Whichever one, just take me over you know so yeah, I agree with you guys. People need to just like be a little smarter, because once you get a parasite or a dark passenger or a hitchhiker, it's pretty much for life. They destroy everything around you, and yeah, if you want a CE5 for that, go ahead, dumbass. You know what I mean.
Hey y'all.
Welcome, Ophelia. Welcome.
Yeah, I love Ophelia. This has been a really interesting conversation. I did just want to jump up because you were mentioning what Jonathan was talking about. He's not here anymore. And I don't know if this is how he meant this, but kind of one of the ways that I think about this is, and I'd be curious for all of y'all's takes, if you think there are potentially multiple things going on, right? To maybe not think that it's all bad, and maybe to leave room open for some of them to not be bad, right? And I think to some extent, when we're talking about, there might be some pre-selection here, right? If you've had mostly interactions with the ones that are fucking taking you from your house and your kids, those are the fucking bad ones, right? And yeah, that's not okay, right? But I just wonder if, I mean, I'm also not a huge fan of give them a chance, right? But that to maybe just not paint with that broad brush of all of them, to certainly acknowledge, right, that the fucked up ones are there, but to maybe leave room open for theirs being, honestly, maybe not even good aliens or NHI, but good aspects of the phenomenon, right? Like, I haven't had anything that I would consider direct contact with an alien or an NHI even necessarily. A lot of my shit has been animals, nature, people, like the earth, right? And that has been positive. So maybe part of the issue is making sure that you're kind of grounded in this world, uh, being our home, right? And I don't know. I hope to not get fucked with the way all some of y'all have, and it's terrible that that has happened. But yeah, just wanted to, I don't know, since he's not here, maybe give a. I get labeled maybe love and light, but I certainly don't look away from the darkness either. So anyway, but it's been a great conversation. I've appreciated hearing from all of you.
Thanks, Megan. For me, I do leave room. I leave room for the good, uh, but I'm in agreement with you. The good side, if it's out there, is not ripping us out of our beds at night. I'm not going to make excuses for abductions. I'm not going to say they're doing it for our own good. It's just like taking us to the vet or any number of other excuses that we bend over backwards for to make excuses for the aliens. I will point out that in the abduction research, there are thousands of cases that have been investigated, and not a single one of them was ever shown to be for the benefit of the human. There was always an ulterior motive for the aliens, very much like breeding stock. If you take your cat to the vet or your dog to the vet or take your cow to the vet is more like it. It's actually for the benefit of the farmer and not the cow. So I leave no room for abductions. Zero. There's no room. There's no any alien carrying out an abduction. There's no room in my heart for that, and I won't make any excuses for it. Is that the entirety of the phenomenon? No, I don't think so. I also don't have a lot of room for the orbs. For people, I've watched people, multiple people in this community, just since I've been here, become obsessed with the orbs. Not a lot of room there for me. If an orb wants you to be obsessed with it, yeah, no, that's not a great entity to me. That's not the behavior of a good entity. And then just reading the abduction research of people who have become enthralled with the orbs, and it turns out they're actually being abducted or their children are being abducted by these things. So there's not a lot of room. The room for the good side for me is I call him God, the creator and sustainer of the universe. I believe is on the good side. And if he's not, we're in really big trouble. If God is just a psyop, a God and angels and the benevolent messengers of God, if that is a psyop and we're just living in a prison planet controlled by the archons, yeah, we're pretty well screwed. So I do leave room for the good guys. There is a story from Heidi Hollis, and she believes that she has gotten a lot of good information from good entities. I have yet to find a hole in her story, although I think she's also had some negative encounters that she might not recognize. The information that she got from the entities, telling her all about the shadow people and Hat Man and the aliens and the agenda and all of that. The information seems fairly sound. I'm still skeptical, but I leave room for stuff like that. There are people with stories of entities, and the information and the ultimate story has never washed out. So I do leave room for that.
And if I could give my 2 cents in one sentence, I do believe that it's wide ranging, but it starts with bad, and then it goes to worse, and then it goes to really, really a whole lot worse, and then to just really more bad than you would really like. And so it's a wide ranging phenomenon. So starting with bad. Thanks.
Go ahead, Miss, and then I'll jump in.
Thank you. To piggy off of Chris, piggying off of Fringe and Megan, um, I guess I leave room, but a lot of this on either side, and or I'll just speak from my own experiences, okay? Because I've experienced both parts of, or I should say, the scale that Chris just described. Um, and you know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of somebody said Stockholm syndrome earlier. That's a degree of it. Um, but it almost makes me feel like the concept of toxoplasmosis, right? Because a lot of this is there's telepathy, it's consciousness, um, and it's astral, it's physical. There's so much. So, liminal space as well. So it's almost like I do have concerns that some of the love and light is is a toxoplasmosis kind of vibe, right? I mean, similar to what Ophelia was saying about parasites, right? And in ancient history, we go on to find out, um, you go through the occult and the mystery schools, you find out that a lot of the uh, ancient rulers of this world would make deals with entities dimensionally. They might use the term spiritually as well. Um, and some of those deals, it's believed, were to, very Eisenhower sounding, to be able to do whatever they want to some other people, so that these people, pharaohs, leaders, could be uh, live forever. You know, immortality, adrenochrome, whatever, right? Like this whole, it's a big old web, right? Um, but it, to me, that's what it felt like, because it felt parasitic, just like a narcissistic abuse feels like, where you're like, what's going? Oh, this is so great. Oh my gosh, I'm wonderful. Oh my gosh, this person thinks I'm wonderful, and they're wonderful. And oh my gosh, and then all of a sudden there's triangulation and devaluing, and you think you're going crazy, and nobody believes you because they have all their flying monkeys around you, right? It's just it is, to me, it's a little bit more Christmas scale. Do I know everything? No, I could be totally wrong. But to end on what Fern had said, I truly believe that this is also maddening and narcissistic, because there is a real God. And these are just these nasty, tentacly, sticky web things that the devil, darkness, this is what they do. You know, they come a wolf in sheep's clothing, an angel of light, right? I mean, I know we're not going biblical here, but some of us here, like you, I mean, we can see it, right? We can see it. It feels that way, and if you're not going off your heart, you're using discernment, which is, you know, heart, mind, soul, right? We're using all that and our learned experience. It just looks more and more like that, and even if it's Chris's scale, there is a real God, man, and that's why they're fighting for us. That's why all this, especially all this soul trap stuff, right? It makes sense. It just fits into all the little. Uh, we're all here with a piece of the puzzle, right? And it's all starting to look like something. You know what I mean? It's all starting to. Some of us see it. Some of us still have toxoplasmosis, where we're hypnotized by the cat and we're the mouse or the person. And I love cats, so I know I already got it, but you know what I'm saying. So um, I don't have Stockholm for them, and they know it. But parasite cleanses, you know, those are good too. Your brain works better, even in your dreams. I'm serious. Even in the liminal space, your brain works better with parasite cleanses, and that says something. That says something that goes back to that ancient stuff I was saying earlier. Um, but I'm not telling people what to do. I'm just telling you what my experience was, and you know, it's sometimes we have to go our own way, learn our own way, and but I promise you, I'm not trying to lead anybody in the wrong way. Promise. Just trying to tell the truth about what happened to me, and I wouldn't want it. I definitely wouldn't want it to happen to my kids. You know, these holes, they came and do what they're. Ugh. But I wouldn't even want it on my worst enemy, because some horrible. It's horrible. You know, don't date this boyfriend. Is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Love you guys.
I just wanted to quickly add in my perspective there, Fringe, on the obsession. I don't feel, personally speaking for myself, that this is something bequeathed me to become obsessed. It was more of the realization that reality is so much stranger than what I had been led to believe, and than what I had ever thought, and to know that I do not know my place in the midst of it is really what set off the obsession for me, to learn more about the truer nature of my own reality. I just wanted to offer that perspective. But I'm absolutely enthralled and just beyond grateful that we have such a wide array of experiencers that can come in to talk, because this is what it's about. It's about finding that middle ground and to find the commonalities and the differences and the discussions and to learn, right? So I really want to just appreciate each and every one of you for coming up and speaking and for having the bravery to speak, because I know that takes a lot.
It does take a lot. And B, did you post your interview in the nest?
I did not. Perhaps I will. I'll do that now.
You should. B actually did an interview. I'm not sure how many people are aware of it, but you need to go check it out. If you don't, I will.
I gotta go, you guys, but much love today, and keep the demon, alien, whatever they are, away. And there are good ones. There's the angelic ones, but like, don't test them. Don't try to look for them. Like, the good ones are usually subtle. They just want you to love people. They don't make a big deal of it. They don't even show up typically. They're just kind of like, oh, put little something somewhere where you needed to find it. That kind of stuff. So, anyways, have a beautiful day. Love you guys.
Love you, Ophelia.
Chris, in the talk that the friend's talking about that I just did the other night, I actually go through a couple of my experiences with these the light orbs and missing time. Both I've had missing time experiences when this stuff comes in close. Both singular and with family members. My daughter and my husband have also experienced this stuff with me, and I don't know what to make of it. And I know that a big part of me running from the negative aspects of it and looking and searching for the other possibilities is it could be my own PTSD issues, because I couldn't. Mm-mm. So that's what's got me looking and pointing toward the Mupa's, which I'm wearing my Mupa's watch at this very moment. Let me sign in. But yeah, I don't. I strongly believe that we're dealing with a plethora of things, and that I don't think it's going to be as easy as putting everything into one box. But there's a common ground that a lot of this stuff is meeting on, and I think finding that is going to be what's key to unraveling a lot of it. Hi, Amy. Welcome to the space.
Thank you. I also have had a positive whole experience with this. I mean, I have been grounded with Gaia. I mean, to the point where I can feel her energy. And it's a valid, sacred, celestial bond with your creator, of course. But it's a bond with all of the earth, the trees, the nature, the animals. I mean, it's coming from every angle for me. I see the moon different now. I see the sun different. I've had that experience, like you were saying, B, where you felt time has stood still. Like time has stopped. Like at night when it's like blue, it's like a really deep blue with white puffy clouds. And the only thing different is that the sun's gone and now you have the moon and it's just as bright, but it's showing all these casts of a different blue at night. And I was like you too. I have PTSD also. So I've been searching for myself for a long time. And when this started, it was a hope. It was like a light of hope that sank into my chest. And for the first 3 months, I was scared. For the next 3 months, I was crying, letting myself just realize how much more important I can be for Gaia. And things have been just, weird things have happened, but it hasn't been a negative, like, I'm going to boo, I'm going to scare you, alien abduction. Not at all. They're presenting in such beautiful ways that I guess I'm lucky because, I mean, I've had spirits walk through my room as a kid. I mean, that's PTSD by its finest. But no, I wanted to share that because it's also a fair on both sides of the aisle. It's just like humanity. There's terrible people, people that you even know are terrible people. So I think it's like it's everybody's journey to figure out, because that's how I'm taking it, and I don't know it all either. I'm still trying to process what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling through this. So that's it. I wanted to share.
Thank you.
I just wanted to tell everybody thank you for having me in the space. I gotta go do mom stuff. Um, but y'all are in my prayers all the time. Um, this is a wild time, right? I mean, nothing new under the sun. But if this is the days of Noah, I guess it's only gonna get weirder. But you know what? The ones of us who experienced, especially I think even the ones who've experienced the bad stuff, we gotta tell people, right? We gotta tell people. Gotta just warn them, let them know. Because if we love humanity, right, the creatures that God made, we would do that, right? We would do that for even a stranger. We should. And even if there's good out there, and yes, there's bad people, good people too. But I mean, even if there's good experiences out there, there's also bad ones. So, yeah. Thank you for having me in the space and letting me share, and thank you for the space, B, all of you guys. And you guys all have a blessed day. I hope you all had a blessed Mother's Day. And until we meet again.
I just wanted to let you know before you go, Miss McGillicuddy, if you're still there, maybe, that I really
Hello?
yes, okay, great. I really appreciated hearing your perspective, especially kind of the framework of it being like interacting with a narcissist, right? And wanting to warn the next girl that that dude might be a fucking narcissist, right? And I have interacted with my fair of shitty people in that regard. And I know it's sometimes been hard for me to not just be like, well, every dude I interact with is going to be a shitty narcissist, especially when they keep being shitty narcissists. But so, not to, I don't know. And maybe I don't think they all are though, right? I don't know. I just try to save room for that. But I appreciate it coming from that point of view of like a warning of like, this is one of the bad ones, watch out kind of a thing. And I just try to not believe they're all bad, despite abundant evidence to the contrary sometimes. But
Yes. Hello?
anyway, yes, I just really appreciated hearing from you. Sorry, Linda, 1 second. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day and, hug your babies. Okay, bye.
Hi. I've never talked to this thing before, and I've been having experiences probably just most recently the past 4 years. And it goes way back as a child, but for some reason, why it's creeping back in my life at this time, I don't know. Um, Basically, I'm really glad to hear you speak about being optimistic about talking or interacting with them, but to be cautious. Um, went to a couple of those Stephen Greer CE5 seminars. I was going to attend, and then I just got very scared and I didn't go. And I thought, how does he know that they're all? He's saying, "Oh, they're all good. They're all harmless." I'm thinking, that's like saying, yes, there are good people in the world, but there are bad ones too. How do you know what you're going to get? You don't. And so for that reason, I got rid of the app. I, quit the group because something in me, whether it was God telling me, or I mean, I prayed on it. I really feel like you really don't know. It's like opening up a can of fish. You don't know what you're going to get. And I just appreciate hearing you be Ophelia, all the different people that are speaking recently. about different experiences because um, I've had, like I said, as a child, a couple experiences. My father worked for Raytheon, and he used to go out to White Sands, New Mexico, to work at Area 51. And I was a kid; I didn't know. I just knew he worked on radar. And he would never. He said, "I can't tell you about what's going on out there." But when I used to ask him, I'm like, "Well, is it real what they say, Dad, about flying saucers, all that?" He goes, well, "Let's just say the world is bigger than we know, and than people will admit to." Am I still on the mic?
You are still on the mic.
Absolutely. The
Okay.
canisters.
I'm sorry. I know I'm talking probably too fast, but it's just it's the first time I've talked about it. I'm 69 years old, and I'm a retired nurse. You know, um, and I have a family, and my concern is I don't want any of this stuff following my family or my grandchildren. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's my main concern is that I that's why I pray to God. I pray to say I've had good luck with so far being very firm in prayer with Saint Michael and God and saying I do not want anything to you know come into my home or try to contact me. You know, I've seen enough, and I've got pictures and photos. I know that something exists. I don't know what they are. Is it our military? Is it Chinese military? Is it UFOs? Most of it's are UAPs, however you want to refer to them. Most of them come in the category of UAPs, and I just know that in my gut. But at the same token, I don't want to be out there trying to talk to them, and I don't know what I'm talking to. That's like talking to a stranger. They might be a friend or they might be a murderer. Who the hell knows? But why would you put yourself at risk? You know? So I watch them. I see them on my Ring cameras a lot of times when I don't have outdoor cameras. I've gotten that type of video, and um, I get a sense like when they're around. I know that sounds weird, but it's like I get like a ringing almost in my ears, and it's like I know when I sense when I'm going to see them or they're going to be around, and I'm like, oh crap. And I prefer not to because I pray to God. I don't really want to see them. Initially I was curious and I thought it was great, but then I got really scared because they were coming every day and they were getting closer to the house, and I was like, wait, this shit's getting really. This is scary. I don't want this. I don't want them. I don't want to be abducted. I don't want to be. All I can remember is when I was really little, when I was about, and you could say, well, maybe it's a dream or maybe it's a, but my brother says he remembers the same thing. When we were about 7 years old, my father was working at Area 51 and we didn't know. And he was out there, he would go for a month or two at a time. And when he would come home from there, shit would start happening in the house. Like we thought it was poltergeist. I don't know. Call it the hitchhiker effect, maybe. In retrospect now, it was probably the hitchhiker effect. Things would turn on and off by themselves, and we'd hear weird noises, and you had the feeling that you weren't alone. You'd have a feeling like something was watching you or hanging over you. And it was really, I mean, it was just weird. I don't know. I can't explain it. But one night, either I had a dream or it happened, and I'm not sure. Um, I felt like there was three tall things that were grayish, but I couldn't see their faces standing above my bed, and three or four little things coming up the stairs, and they were trying to drag me off my bed. And I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. And I held on to the bed for dear life and, prayed in my mind because I couldn't scream. I just prayed in my mind, dear God, make these things go away. Please take these things away. I don't know what they are, but please take these things away. Please, send my angels to protect me. And after a bit, they did, and they just went. The tall things went away first. They just like vanished, and the grays sort of just backed down. Now they weren't standing on the ground. They were like floating about, I'd say, 2 feet above the ground. And so they went the top of my landing. They just floated down the stairs and went back out the front doors. And I was like, holy shit. And I remember when I could finally get up. I ran down and double bolted the door because I was afraid. But when I got down there, the door was bolted. They had come through the door without it being unbolted. So how they got in the house, I don't know. I don't know. But I remember that was scary. Talked to my mother about it. She said, oh, it was probably a nightmare, But then a few weeks later, we were sitting on the porch and she saw these lights in the sky. They looked like orbs. They didn't look like flying saucers. They looked like glowing orbs. And there was three of them. and they were doing all sorts of crazy things, not like a plane. And then she grabbed me by the hand because he was in White Sands, and she said, "Holy shit!" She didn't know what they were. She grabbed me, and we ran in the house, and she locked the doors. She didn't want. She said, "Stay away from the windows. Don't look outside. Don't look. Stay away from the windows. Come sit with me. And get over here. And we're gonna pray." So I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, that's not a lot to go on. I realize, but I really wasn't convinced about aliens 100% until, like I said, 4 years ago when we got a Ring camera. We put it up, and I had never had an outdoor camera to monitor the property or the sky, or we just didn't think like that. I was working. I was a nurse, and I just lived normal lives. I mean, and then these things started appearing, and so I don't know what to say other than then I started, reading up more on it, and then I started watching that Dr. Stephen Greer, and at first, it seemed fine, like, oh, everything's fine. They're not here to do anything bad. But then, I saw Linda Moulton Howe and other ones, and I started getting a more a wider perspective of the range of things, and I realized that, well, these things aren't all good and they aren't all bad, but you don't have control over it. And anything that comes into your life and you don't have control over, I would say that's negative. It may not be the worst person, but I mean, I don't even go over to my neighbor's house to visit them unless I call first and say, "Could I come over for a minute?" And these things are not asking; they're just showing up. And the fact that they are so advanced scares the bejeebers out of me. Who knows what they are? So all I could do when I was scared was pray, and that seems to have helped. Interestingly, my brother, who was up in Maine, he's been seeing them too the past few years, and he's got them on film. So I don't know. Is it related that they're following our family because my father was out there and worked out there, and I don't know. I really don't know, or is it just it's knows what it is? I really don't know, but that's been my experience, and all I can think is when I hear people say, "Oh, they don't worry about it; they'll be good." You don't know that they will be good. I would say just for the safe side, be careful. That's all. All right, that's all I get to say. Thank you.
Linda, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us, coming up on stage and being brave enough to basically, even use this X Spaces for the first time. I can actually chime in about Area 51. Although I've never been to the Nevada testing range, inside of it, I have been directly north of it along Road 51. I've frequented it. A little alien in Rachel, Nevada. To be honest, it kind of feels like home every time I go back too. It's really interesting. But long story short, me going over there, observing sort of strange, anomalous phenomenon over there. That place absolutely is haunted. Something is up. I've experienced the hitchhiker effect out over there, leaving that road and going all the way back to Vegas, which is usually where I stay at whenever I visit Rachel, Nevada. Over 100 miles away and everything, and been experiencing very strange phenomenon along there. In fact, I got into like some sort of a road raging experience with a guy in a semi truck. He was trying to push me off the road, and he was going like about over 90 miles per hour to where I had to like literally burn through the extraterrestrial highway to get away from this guy. But really crazy things, really crazy stuff. And just being an individual who has been to the northern entrance into the Nevada testing range, and a person who's frequented Rachel, Nevada, there's absolutely something out of there. And either it's on a sort of a John Keel poltergeist, ultra terrestrial sort of level, or something else. But also to verify something that you're talking about, like praying, tapping into that sort of spiritual architect, that corresponding cosmic architect within inside of us, it absolutely does work. Absolutely does work. Um, and but for me, from what I found for myself and my experiences is, especially when I've been afraid like that before, and I have been very afraid like that before. Um, Later on in my experiences, those beings that that like all of a sudden like surrender and let go, like, oh shit, we're freaking this person out to where they're praying to God. Let's leave this person alone. We don't want to mess with their field. We understand that they don't want to work with us. They want nothing to do with us, so we're going to leave them alone. But this phenomenon, according to what I've observed and afterwards, what I've read, is that it does seem to follow us and our children, strangely enough, even relatives. Um, in fact, I later on married a woman who was an experiencer herself, um, and it's really interesting the sort of experiences that we've had together, and even with her, her side of the family. It's very, very interesting. But yeah, it's I wish you well on your journey, understanding this more. Also, too, I wanted to let you know that you can literally read a book about Area 51. It's a great book. It's written by let me see. It's called Area 51: An Uncensored History of the History of America's Top Secret Military Base. And what's interesting about this particular book is it doesn't really so much speak upon the ufology sort of aspect of Area 51. It goes into the nuts and bolts of Area 51, the culture of Area 51, almost sort of like fraternity, dare I even say, of Area 51, as well as the history of kind of a chronological timeline of essentially the various different things that were going on, everything from like the development of the U2 project to current things that are going on. It speaks very little about the Lazar stuff, um, but more so about the reaction to the Lazar stuff. That's really interesting. So your father would have been on Area 51 like around 1950s, 1960s, probably around the time that they were doing nuclear experimentations in the Nevada testing range or whatnot. There was actually fallout at one point. They were detonating nukes allegedly on the Nevada testing range that they actually had to close down um, Area 51 and evacuate people as far as Rachel, Nevada, because of the fallout. But very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff.
So yeah, the book you were talking about is Amy Jacobson's book.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much.
What book is that again? Amy Jacobson, you said?
Yeah, Annie Jacobson, Area 51,
Okay.
an uncensored history of America's top secret military base. Very interesting book.
Okay. Yeah,
Fantastic.
I definitely want to see if I can find that on Amazon or
Oh
something.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you can find it if you like audiobooks, you'll also be able to find the audiobook version of that as well. So
Well, that'd be cool. All right. One other thing I'll say. It was my father. To say this, he wasn't. He worked. He was in the Air Force. I was born in '55, but he was in the Air Force from '53 to '55, and he was a radio man. And they used to fly out over the desert over there a lot. And then he joined Raytheon when he left the military, and he worked in the engineering department over in Massachusetts, up where they were doing the radar for the SAMD missiles and different stuff like that. I used to call them it looked like the giant golf ball radar, and he used to fly out there. So I'm just saying he was out there when my brother and I said from we were in the first grade till up until we were about 10 or 12. He used to go every summer for a couple of months. So I don't know. There's a lot that went on, and like I said, I truly think between talking about things that happen at my house and things that my brother experienced and things that I experienced, and then even my children um, later on. I mean, years and years later. One time I was home with them, and they screamed and they called me to come to the picture window to look. And we were on the third floor of an apartment building. They said, "What is that, Ma?" And they were like 14 and 12 or something like that. And anyhow, I come to the window, and it looked like, I don't know, I wouldn't say a flying saucer, but a half disc or something brightly lit up, and it was just in the sky there, and then it just went, and then it just as quickly it was there, like 30 seconds, maybe a minute, it was gone. And it didn't shoot away. It just vanished. It was just gone. And we were all, like all shook up about it. But then after that, nothing really happened. But I used to keep my blinds closed on that side of the building because I didn't want whatever it was seeing us where we were in the building. I know that sounds stupid, but I was afraid that they could see in, and I don't know. I didn't. I just remember when I was a child, so I just was trying to be protective. But we didn't have any problems, and there was no more nightmares or any. My kids never had any other issues. I like I said, I pray a lot, and I taught them to pray a lot, and you know, initially they just kind of laughed at me like, "Oh ma," but then after that happened, they were like, "Oh." And so they're not really big believers in it, but they're like, "Well, I don't know. That was hard to explain what that was. We don't know." But they don't really, they don't bother. I don't talk to them about it because I don't want to worry them and I don't want to bring it closer to our family because sometimes I worry that if you're talking about them, they'll think, oh, they'll take that as a sign as you're interested in contacting them, and I'm not. So I'd like to know if anybody's had experience with that. The more you watch, like say shows like the Skinwalker Ranch and other things, or show more interest in those type of shows, does it correlate with seeing them appear more in your neighborhood or in your area? Um,
In ge-
I'm just curious.
in general, I can actually say that when I was a teenager, I'm 47 now. When I was a teenager,
Yeah.
I used to have similar experiences. Sometimes the phenomenon I wouldn't be around it, but then if I started diving into the material of alien abductions and grays and all this other stuff, I would start seeing things. I remember watching what is it? One of those like mini series and everything. I forget the name of it, but it was about abductions, and it was like one of the first ones where I got to see. That they were representing what these grays are like. So I was terrified, like terrified. My mom even mentioned like, "Wow, you seem very different now." And the reason why I was terrified was because anytime I would start talking about this sort of thing. I would start looking into this sort of things. Strange things would happen. Even later on, like into my 30s, I remember I started getting involved with Project Camelot and talking with some people that were on there because of my own sort of experiences when I was a child. And then just like that, within about a couple of weeks, I started seeing stuff, balls of light outside of my house, an entity, coming into my house that looked like a shadow figure or a smoky shadow figure, driving home from a band practice space and seeing like a 6 foot tall, like white, basically, as we would call them, like these a sort of a gray,
Wow.
like white skin. Very, very, very interesting sort of phenomenon. But now, talking with people uh, like yourself and everything like that, it's interesting. Many things have happened since then. Like I said, I'm 47 now. A greater understanding, prayer, spirituality, a reverence for the phenomenon and people's experiences, such as yourself. And now it doesn't necessarily seem to be a thing that it just randomly shows up. It's almost like something that I have to call for it. Once in a while, there's some visitors that just randomly show up and stuff like that. Not necessarily grays, more like a skinwalker sort of energy or whatnot. But that's going to happen, especially if you're practicing certain things and working with certain sort of energies. Um, you might catch something's attention. So, but yeah, but for the most part, to answer your question, when I was younger, yes, those things used to happen, but now not so much.
Right. Well, the thing I will say is because I was so fearful of these things, I started praying very heavily every day, twice a day, and I'd say, "Dear God, please surround my home and inside with your protective angels, and do not let them on my do not let them come to me or my family, or my area. Let them go somewhere else. They want to go visit Putin, send them over there." But I said, if they want to abduct somebody, there's somebody that they could experiment on. But no, I just mean I just didn't want them anywhere near me or my family or my friends. And I said, it's one thing to observe them in the sky and think, wow, that's, pretty interesting what I'm seeing. But I don't want them being like a frequent. They're in the. I would say, here's the thing: is I saw some that look like, I call them scout orbs. I know it's going to sound really weird, and I have pictures. If you look at my profile, I posted some of my ring camera um, pictures and some that from my phone, and I'm not. These are not what do you call it? Photoshop. These are real pictures, real things that I posted because I'm not that technical. But anyhow, I saw these like orbs that came out of this like triangle. I know that sounds weird, but if you saw the pictures, you'd understand. And then they came down. I've got pictures of them where they landed. They went around and they went almost like they were spying on the houses in the neighborhood. And I was watching it on my ring camera. It would go over to the windows on the house across the street. They had young teenage boys in that house, and they'd go up to the roof where the chimney was, and then they'd go to the house across the street again, another house with teenagers in it. And I noticed they weren't going to the old people's house that lived right next door, but they were going to. It seemed to me like they were visiting the orbs were spying on houses that had teenagers in them. And I thought, oh my God, like and so I prayed, God, please get them away. I said, I want to keep these people safe, but I don't want to tell neighbors that I'm seeing these things. I mean, it was always 2 to 4 in the morning. Like I wasn't even getting any sleep hardly anymore because of the fact that I'd be so fearful. I'd stay awake because I was afraid they were going to be coming into the house. So that's when I started praying, and I did notice that the praying after a while, it took a while, but it did work. And like I said, knock on wood, it seems to have whenever I get a little bit anxious, it seems to really work. And I take it very strongly for protection, and that's all I can say. But the Stephen Greer guy, I don't know. He's telling everybody, "Oh, go out, contact them." And I'm thinking, I don't know what you're doing there, sir. I'm not saying that they don't exist and some aren't good, but it's like people on Earth. Not all people are bad, but not all people are good either. And I'm like, you got to be cautious about what you do. So
Yeah,
that's all. I just am concerned that he advises everybody, oh, be friendly, call them, invite them, go out in the desert and sit and wait for them. I'm like, I don't know that I'd be doing that.
I agree with you.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't trust Stephen Greer. I think he's a closeted man. I think he's too optimistic, and I think he has sort of a brand that he's like trying to nail home. But he's very very sus, very sus, and that's just my opinion. Please feel free to disagree with
Yeah.
me.
No, I'm not saying he is, or I'm not trying to be judgmental of him. I'm just trying to say that if you were listening to him, because he sounds very, you could be very taken in by him. And I'm just saying, I want people to be careful and to be safe. I'm not saying that every experience would be bad, but I'm saying don't put yourself at risk on something that you don't have control over. Be
Agreed.
cautious. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, agreed.
You know.
Agreed. 1,000% agree with you. 100%.
All right, I'm going to relinquish my conversation, but thank you for the book information about Area 51. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda.
Before you go real quick, Linda, if you're still up here, I just wanted
Yeah.
to, I don't know if you were here when Ophelia was speaking. I know that her father also spent some time working for Raytheon, which is interesting. You
Oh,
don't hear Raytheon mentioned as much, considering that they started based on some guy doing astronomical observations, and their name means light of the gods. Like, I don't know, there's something there.
I didn't know that. I didn't hear that. I must have joined late in the
Um,
conversation. I only heard part of Ophelia's whatever she said.
I don't think she was talking about it in this space. She's just spoken about it in the past. So that's kind of
Okay.
interesting if you're tying some of your experiences to your dad's time at Raytheon, and that's one of the
Yeah.
things that she ties hers to. I was hoping you could clarify. So, like, were you living on base? Because I wonder if for some of this stuff, if there's like a
N-
regional effect. Sorry, go ahead.
No, no. So we've lived in Massachusetts our entire life. And when he was in the Air Force, before he married my mother, obviously, he would go out to Florida. They would go out to California. Like the Air Force took him to different bases, wherever. I would have to try to track down his military record of to see what base. I don't know if they can even do that to know what military bases he visited when he was in the service. Do you know what I'm saying? But he was always on planes, and I always thought that they were. I know it's gonna sound strange. They were. He was like the radio guy, and I thought he was like on some sort of a bomber, but they didn't drop bombs. They just were going. They would fly to different bases. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this was like, and I don't know that much because he never talked. Like, he had an office that we used to go in and we used to, get pencils and paper from, and he tells us to stay out of it, not to go in there. And he always kept the door locked. He always had files and shit that he had locked up. I don't know. But anyhow, the long story short was, so Raytheon, my mother was always had to be alone with us during the month of July and August, and sometimes June too. Sometimes it was 3 months because Raytheon would send him out there to work. He'd work out there for a month, and then he'd come home for a weekend, refresh, visit, and then he'd pack up and he'd go out there for another month. And they were staying off. They didn't. I don't think they stayed on base. I think. Well, I don't know. They didn't stay on Area 51, but I thought they stayed near Area 51. So he would be working actually on Area 51. He would go to those places, but when they were living out there out in that area, they lived off base, if that makes sense, and then they traveled to the base. I don't know if that helps anybody, but
100%.
again, we don't know that much about it because again, he never talked about it. My mother never talked about it. Area 51, what was that? Who even heard of Area 51? Back in those days, he used to say, "Oh, I got to go out to White Sands." And that's where I did, he always referred to, "Oh, I got to go out to White Sands." And then come later on to find out that was the Area 51 that he was going out to because we found out later when he was older. He said, "Oh, yeah, he didn't make, he goes, but he goes, I can't tell you, mother, and I can't tell you, but just know there's more to life than what you know." There's he used to kind of like it's sort of like he was telling us, yes, there's something, but I can't tell you, and that's basically how he was. So, but my brothers and I, we didn't think that much of it, but we lived here, so the experiences we had with the hitchhiker effect when he would come back or when he would go out there, it used to even happen. The hitchhiker effect when he would be out there, actually out there in the desert, out there, we would have shit happen at the house, like water faucets would turn on by themselves, fans would turn on, like you had to do 3 clicks. It wasn't this digital shit. It was the old school. You had to click it manually to turn stuff on and off. Do you know what I mean? And we'd have that going, and then we'd have like noises, like it sounded like somebody walking in the attic. Okay, it's an old house, so yeah, maybe, people say it creaks, but it sounded just like someone walking. And we had dogs that would not go. So from the kitchen, because it was a two-family house, the kitchen, the upstairs kitchen that was right next to our bedrooms, after my grandparents had moved out, that kitchen was empty, and that used to be right before the attic, the stairs that go up to the attic. There was a little half bath out there. At night, we would be scared to death. So we had to go to the bathroom. We did not want to go to that bathroom. We used to run downstairs because we did not want to have to walk through the kitchen to get to that bathroom that was near the attic, because that's how scared we were. You would actually feel like your hair bristle up in your arms, like you didn't know what it was, but you sensed something like electric or something not right, or like something was there, and you felt like you were being watched, and it was scary as shit. And the dogs would get to the doorstep of the kitchen, and all of a sudden their fur would go up, and they'd back away like they were scared. And you say, "There's nothing there. Go on, go in the kitchen." The dogs wouldn't go in. They looked like, hell no. They actually would whimper and cry and come behind us like they were looking for protection. We just thought it was just dogs being weird. We didn't know. But my uncle, who trained German shepherds, because he worked on the nuclear sub back in the day. He worked. I forget where he worked, but he was one of the ones. He was an engineer that worked on the nuclear sub when it was up in Portsmouth and that. Um, anyhow, as a hobby, he used to train German shepherds, and he had trained his dog Lady to be a really what do they call it, strict, guardian. Like if he said sit, she would. If he said don't move, she would. She wouldn't. Like she was really well trained, and she was fearless. Like she'd go after anybody. She didn't care. He brought her over because one night my mother said, "There's somebody in the attic. I know there is. We can hear them walking. We can hear stuff being moved around and shuffled around. There is something." And now you say, "Well, it could be rats or squirrels." It wasn't that kind of noise. So we thought that they had broken in. We thought maybe through the porch or something they got into the second floor and they were up in the attic. So he came over with his dog, and he sent her and gave her the command to go search and find, go see. She got to the kitchen doorway and stopped and put her brakes on. And her fur went up on the back of and her tail went up straight, and she started growling and barking, and then she ran. And he's like, and he's talking to her in his German commands, telling her, lady, get over here. What the hell? Get up here, go search. And he had to physically throw her out into the kitchen. She did not want to go in that kitchen. She did not want to go near the. And he forced her to go up the attic stairs. She did not want to go up the attic. No way in hell. And she was crying the whole time. And this dog, I never saw that dog whine, whimper in my life. And this dog was deathly afraid. And we found like things moved and things open, like the in between. There was like a door that went between the walls that was open. So it was left open, and he looked in there. He didn't see anything. Again, nothing was ever found. Nothing was ever seen. We just know things were disarrayed, and somebody been up there moving stuff around. So we don't know. So after that, we left, but so then the rest of the summer, off and on, things like that would happen. But we just learned to ignore it. My mother used to say, "Oh, it must be ghosts." We'll just, and we just ignored it because, oh, it must be ghosts because the house was old. Must just be ghosts. Just ignore it. It'll go away. And so that's pretty much what we did. But I'll tell you, in my heart, and my brother, we said we were talking the other day, and he said, "Yeah." He says, "Remember how?" I said, "I don't know. I was scared shitless all the time." Because I was too. He goes, and in my heart, I felt it was an entity. I didn't feel it was a ghost. I didn't feel like it was a ghost. It felt like it was an actual, invisible entity that we couldn't see that was there and was messing with us. And it was terrifying. That's all I can tell you. But we moved out of that house, and I never had any experience like that in any other place I lived. So I don't know. It, that's all I got to say. I figured I'd just add that to the story. Let people think about that. They might have some feedback. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
I
all.
really appreciate hearing you share, Linda. I think that, yeah, Ophelia would be an interesting person for you to talk to because I think she and her dad did talk somewhat about the things that he had experienced and the connections that he'd made while working at Raytheon and other things. I think he was in the military as well. It's been a while since I talked to her about it. So I do just
Yeah.
want to have one quick question, which is, so you said that, your dad had gone off and then he came back. And you feel like maybe the entity came back like along with him? You noticed an uptick in that sort of
Yeah.
activity?
Well, yes. After the first time he went out there, and it's like it was more so. It would be more active when he was out there, and it would come back even when he didn't come back with it. Like even when he was like, say, when he was out there for like 3 weeks at a time. Because don't forget, he'd start going out, say, in June. So after he came back the first time, that's when stuff gradually started happening and building and getting more and more. And um, and that's when we started having. My mother's had the sighting with me on the porch, seeing those lights in the sky. We didn't know what they were. So that stuff all happened then. But then the activity just after that stayed, and I don't know. It would die down like in the winter. Like it seemed when he wasn't out there, the activity would die down. But a couple of times it happened while he was home, and he went up and he got a baseball bat because he thought somebody was in the house too. And he was there for when one of the things happened where the fans went on and the faucet turned on, and he went up in the attic because he was sure that there was a burglar or something, somebody in the house hiding. And he went up there and he couldn't find anything either. So it mostly happened when he wasn't home, but it did happen even when he was home one or two times. So don't know. I have no explanation of what it was. Ghost, hitchhiker effect, but it was weird. And in retrospect, here's the other thing I don't know. I'm 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 in my family. I'm Rh negative. I read recently that there's some correlation between Rh negative. I don't know. They're wondering if they follow Rh negative. I don't know, but I know probably a lot of people have Rh negative blood. But I'm just saying it was just weird. These are just things that I've known lately. I've only come to all these realizations at age 69, unfortunately. So anyhow, that's that. But
But it's awesome.
thank you for your info.
What's awesome is that you're reaching these perspectives, you're reaching these areas of understanding. I mean, some people don't even get to make it to like 39 or even 29, you know? And
Yeah,
and the fact that you're
yeah,
still looking at these things, the fact that you're still being curious, that you're still asking questions. I mean, that's a lot of people 69 that don't do that. So good on you. And thank you for sharing, your experiences in this room. One thing I wanted to tell you, there's a book I mentioned a bunch in these rooms. It's called Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. It's actually
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so in that book, they talk about the hitchhiker phenomenon, and they talk about exactly the sort of phenomenon that you're talking about, where, say, for instance, the father of a family, they are on site investigating anomalous phenomenon of some sort. But meanwhile, while they're investigating that, there's shit going on at home, and the people can't, no
Yeah.
one can explain what's going on. I've experienced this, and you've experienced this, and there's verification, an actual government study that cost 25 million
Really?
of taxpayer. Yeah, it cost $25 million in taxpayer money to get this research going, and it was conducted for a little bit under a decade, and that was one of the things that they found. So there's like actual like Pentagon papers on the hitchhiker
Huh.
phenomenon. So yeah, this is stuff that, and for me, that's verification. There it is. There it is. This is happening. This is for real. What you experienced is something that other people within government that have been around this sort of stuff have experienced too. So yeah, absolutely,
Wow.
1,000% real, 1,000%.
Well, thank you for the information. So, paper, what you said, Skinwalker at the Pentagon? Is that what you said the book
Yeah,
was?
that's the name of the book, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. Very good book. It's a red book, and it will, a lot of verifying information. And what's interesting too is that it really doesn't go so much into the crafts or anything like that, but what it does go into is the sort of anomalous phenomenon that you're speaking about and we're talking about. It verifies that as to be something that is absolutely real. And again,
Wow.
thank you so much for sharing that. I've experienced it.
Well, thank.
I'm glad whenever somebody else comes up here. And thank you for being 69 and awesome. I really appreciate that.
Well,
Hi.
but I just do the best I can. So, thank you all. I'm really learning from all of you. Thank you very
Well,
much.
we're learning from you too. And thank you so much.
Bye
Yeah,
bye.
thank you very much, and thank you, B, for hosting this. It's very nice to have a space that shares what the disclosure community should be about. But just for is it Linda? I've
Yeah.
I've, uh,
Yes.
posted something at the top. A good group to get in touch with would be the Nevada aviation history. It's I posted a website at the top which posts pretty much all the activity from 1951 with Project Oxcart in Area 51 up until like the 90s, and it gives all the planes that were flown, all the actual analysis and data of the flights and everything like that. But yeah, you people who worked Area 51 couldn't live in Nevada. They did have to live out state. But yeah, it was very CIA involved back then. So finding stuff on your father and stuff like that will be very difficult, and I'm very tough. But yeah, it's very nice to hear an experience basically. But there's another book as well, the 37th Parallel, which I've posted in the comments about the UFO highway, which is very good. But it also has Robert Bigelow's 9-year-old encounter when he was 9, I think. It's quite strange. But this early this week is like the anniversary of my encounter with my first encounter with a TR-3B, a triangular craft that defied modern physics, and it was I think it's 9 years ago now, and I experienced anomalous health effects from it, and it's one of those things that my belief is I know these things happen because after that I experienced even stranger anomalous things, which I'm not going to go into. But they were personal and they happened to me. And I'm a logical person. I've served in the military and so forth. I'm not an idiot. And these things were as real as me, were as real as anybody else. And that experience stuck with me forever. And changed my whole thinking and ideology, and has actually made me. I don't know. I can't really explain it, but more understanding of reality and accepting of life, and it changed my whole life, and even in some ways for the worse, but in some ways for the better, and that's life. It's our own experiences, but for me, and it's been clearly shown recently, people that are claiming they want disclosure and are just lying to you are not people to be putting our faith in. We need to put faith in each other, common folk, people who are experiencing these things. What the government are wanting to do is weaponize these things that we are experiencing. The government is struggling to experience them because they are trying to find these things and experience these things with wrong intentions and negative intentions, and that will never happen if these beings are fucking intergalactic. You know what I mean? Interdimensional. What thoughts, you know what I mean? Beings of consciousness, that they're not going to respond to a negative presence, and that's why if you've got positivity in your life and you're seeking a betterment of yourself, then these things will become present to you if you live a good life and an honest life. And that's all I'm going to say. And yeah, thank you, B. He's one of the great people in this community who does the grunt work, and the other people get the praise. But it's really nice to you know, I'm not going to come, but yeah, you know how much I appreciate you.
I can. You said something that I feel like I want to share sort of a counter experience to that. You mentioned that that this sort of phenomenon is attracted to good people, and I can 100% say that that's not always true. I've seen some really miserable people get exactly what was coming to them through this type of phenomenon before. It does not care. Like kind of what Linda was talking about. You know, it's the kind of the concept of like, hey, leave me alone, bother this other person. And I've seen someone do that before and literally direct this type of, the phenomenon directly to that other group of individuals who are horrible people.
But
And yeah, it's very interesting.
But that's it. If you're not ready to accept,
Really quick, Guy, you might be far away from your phone. You're skipping in and out a bunch. Just want to let you know that.
not that's just my speech pattern. I'll try.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Not that is true. But these things, if there is positive and negative energies of everything. There is a balance of everything. There is negative energies out there, and these things will latch on to things. But what I mean is when you're seeking something, and this has been like talked about with like the invisible helpers, with like early esoteric teachings like Blavatsky's and Ledbetter's. What the stuff that the CIA has been kind of using to mold their programs, but yeah, the thought and the hypothetical thinking of when people are in need, are in the most trying times, is when most people have an experience then a positive experience. Most people who experience negative things is because of their own fear, of their own of their own worry, and that then becomes scary because they can't accept what is happening in their reality. So their mind defends that, and it causes trauma. But the thought of when we die, time is no boundary no more. So the energy that is then transmuted, we can actually call upon in our physical life after the fact, and that is something that is documented. If you actually look further back than like books like Skinwalkers at the Pentagon and stuff like that, this stuff has been confirmed a long time ago, by stuff that's been washed over and miscounted, and it's what people need to do. They need to look back further than our generations and look back to how we evolved from spirituality to rely on things, on material. But I'm going to stop talking because I'm just going on. Yeah, thank you, B. I appreciate it. I'll post something in the comments as well. A couple of days at, sorry, my Alexa's trying to talk.
No,
A couple of days after my experience, encounter, there was 2 Typhoon jets scrambled from Liverpool that hit sonic boom and were apparently going to intercept a UFO that was rising out of the North Sea, and that's that's just one of the links to the experience. But I've got the MUFON MUFON reports and the investigation stuff that like proves it happened, and I was with someone else at the time as well, and yes, it was crazy. You know what I mean? It was 500 feet in the air, like 300 feet away from me, just sitting in the air, not moving, and then just flew off in the blink of an eye. Insane. And yeah. Anyway, thank you.
Really quickly, I wanted to throw a name at you. You mentioned Marilyn Blavatsky. I live in an area of California called Giant Rock. Occasionally, I make my way over to a place called Ojai, California, and there's a Theosophy Center over there. And Marilyn Blavatsky books are like all over the place because it's a Theosophy Center. But check out a guy by the name of Manly P. Hall. He was a 33rd degree Freemason. He was a mystic. He was the guy that introduced astrology to the West, very popular like in the 1920s and 1930s. But also, he has a really interesting book called The Secret Teachings of All Ages. And a couple of parts in his book, he talks about the phenomenon that we're talking about. We're talking about like parasitic sort of beings that feed upon the energy of people. Like some of the things that Linda was talking about when she was seeing the orbs go from one teenager's home to another home that was filled with teenagers to another home that was filled with teenagers. And, automatically I think, oh, it's going after psychic energy. That's interesting. But yeah, there's some really interesting things within that book hinting at the phenomenon. More so on a esoteric sort of scholarly level than, and forgive me for saying this, than Blavatsky. Mary P. Hall is the man. That's all I want to say. Good talking to you, bro.
Yeah, yeah. I think Manly's teachings are kind of based on like Ledbetter's and Blavatsky. But what I say, the orbs, how I perceive the orb situation is they used to be known as fireballs, but I hearing, going from window to window and seeing roughly around seven years ago that the militaries created laser induced plasma weapons that can create plasma orbs to use as crowd control, to cause pain, to send audio messages to troops, and be able to control these plasma orbs by sending basically a laser guiding for it. And that was like 7 years ago. Around the same time, Lockheed were kind of promoting their football-sized fusion reactor prototype that said would be ready in like 5 years. That could just fit on the end of any mains pipe and fuel anything. You know what I mean? It's how the way it is. It's like a lot of people are now like, yeah, this disclosure's like never been this good. It's never been as talked about as talked about in government and so forth. But that's really not the truth. And when I hear people saying like Greer's a grifter, it's really downheartening, because you have to look at like the whistleblower list that he has, the whistleblowers that come forward in 2001 in a time when it was a career killer. You know what I mean? It's the guy didn't have wasn't a government agent. I believe he was offered billions by some shadow corporation. The same corporation who I don't get on here as much, but I saw Valley talking about a database with the Good Trouble show, and how he couldn't disclose none of it. That database, it was the Capella database, which he started in the 90s with Robert Bigelow, Putoff, and Alexander Davis, with NIDS, and used Larry Hatch's UFO database, used the pilot's database, and they've appropriated every UFO reporting database, including MUFON's, which I've attempted to try and get my case from MUFON. It's just not available. I cannot fucking access it, and they claim like 250,000 reports in 2008, and it was not a coincidence why Enigma literally within 2 years managed to get 350,000 UFO reports and have monetized them, which includes a ton loads of people's medical information, hypnotherapy, and stuff like that. And they're still attempting to kind of do it now. I don't know. It's just, I'm sorry I'm going on, B. But it's really important, and people don't talk about this. They cover the bullshit that happens, and this is the stuff that matters. I mean, I've seriously been affected by not like saying in good ways, but my health's fucked, and it's it's all kind of a run off of that, off of that, and I know other people have gone through the same kind of health issues, pretty much identical. Problems with the eye, hypertension in the head, lesions on the brain, fucking seizures, all sorts. Do you know what I mean? And there's people coming out saying they've got charities for people who've been affected health wise by this. I've never been fucking contacted by any of them. Not heard of any of them. You know what I mean? I'm a real experiencer and a veteran. I've got evidence to back it up, and no one gives a fuck. You know what I mean? Other people going on claiming that they're blowing the whistle, and
Well, you're definitely in a room full of people who give a fuck, my friend.
so
Definitely.
say that again, sorry.
I said, well, you're definitely in a room full of individuals like-minded like yourself who absolutely do give a fuck. So absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah, I give like a whole bunch of fucks about you, Guy. I think you're the best.
I
Yeah, Guy, I think you're awesome too, bro.
yeah, that's I watched Thunderbolts as well earlier, in like a little special box, which was nice. But what I wanted to say, yeah, this week also commemorates the 60. Sorry, I'm going to work this out. The 67th anniversary of my uncle transporting 3 nuclear weapons to Christmas Island. Christmas Island, to perform Operation Grapple. He observed the first one and dropped the third one, but he did all the detailed training, and that's what I mean. The link to the TR3B that I saw, and the fact that my uncle, when he retired, um, when he retired, was working with Lockheed and Skunk Works, and he was one of the best pilots in the world, for many years. I've got, so I'm not going to share it. I'll send it to Ian and Megan, but yeah, a picture of him in his Mosquito flying over Singapore in 1945, when he just left there, just left the UK after doing the Mosquito night runs, which were witness to Foo Fighters and UFOs. But I've got a picture from one of his old buddies of him and his Mosquito, and it looks like there's like 3 Foo Fighters in the back of the photo. It's proper cool. But I'll send it to you now. But so thank you for letting me talk. It's I hope you do these regularly. People need a voice.
Definitely, bro. Definitely. One thing, real quick, I wanted to mention about Manly P. Hall. His work was not based on a Madame Blavatsky, although he did reference Madame Blavatsky's work. His work is, I guess, in a vein of his own, kind of like a lot of other occultists and mystics back then. But good on you mentioning both people. Cheers to you, buddy.
Oh, I didn't know if it was, but if you read the Blavatsky's, and have you read the Invisible Helpers by Ledbetter?
I actually haven't. Thank you for telling me about that book. I will read that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you read them, then you'll see the. I mean, it's like saying somebody's works based on someone else's. They're not going to come out and say that, but yeah, it definitely is on them lines, and those esoteric teachers, people really didn't want to be connected with them, because they were connected with the atrocities of the 20th century. The people connected to those, the people that were searching for the ancient knowledge and forbidden wisdom, like the Holy Lance and Vimanas and shit like that. The ancient shamans, the Fuel, the Vril, the Anabi giants, the Peru crystal skulls, and all the other stuff that the KGB appropriated at the end of the war.
There's also the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a lot of other sort of aspects, Freemasonry, mysticism that even most Freemasons don't know about, all sorts of different stuff. Yeah. It's all very relevant, and strangely enough, in my experience, for some reason, it corresponds with the phenomena. I can't understand why, but I've lived it and I've seen it work. And absolutely. If anyone's ever interested in tapping into an energy modality, Qigong. Cheers.
Yeah, I'm bang on with it the Freemasonry, the Jesuit Freemasonry, kind of linked with the Templars, the Order of Malta, the Propaganda Jew, I think is it the Order of the Dawn Star, the female Freemason group. There's so many ties to it, and I think when I read the Jesuit oath, that scared me. That did.
Yeah, the Order of the Eastern Star is an interesting group attached to modern Freemasonry. But I would also hint at looking into the different kinds of Freemasonries. There's the regular Freemasons, and then there's the irregular Freemasons. Especially the irregular Freemasons that you'll find at Theosophist institutes, which is very interesting. Co-ed Freemasonry, Freemasonry where people are actually studying and practicing magic. Very, very interesting stuff. But yeah, there's a wide demographic of different schools and different sort of lodges of thought, especially diving into the esoteric. But most of those things can also be found online, or in a book. Like The Secrets of the Freemasons, I can point at a book that reveals most of them, which is basically Freemasons for Dummies. It was written by a 33rd degree Mason,
Well,
and it's actually a banned book in most Freemason lodges, especially in the West, in the States.
well,
But
Wait, is it
yeah,
actually called Freemasonry for Dummies? It's like of the For Dummies
yes,
series? Oh shit.
yes, and
I
it's a
love it. I'm gonna
banned.
check it out.
Freemasons call it the Big Yellow Book. And before I became a Freemason, hi, hello, I read that book. And one of the really interesting things about that particular book is that it reveals many of the arts and parts. As a Freemason, the only thing I can't ever talk about are the rituals. I can tell you all the arts and parts, even though I swore to not talk about them. But other Freemasons talk about them, so I can too. Hey, come on. But it's interesting because a lot of it has to do with just the conduct of and the experience of the individuals going through the mystery sort of experiences of each of the rituals as you're basically going up up the ladder in Freemasonry and whatnot.
well,
But a lot of really interesting books to read, and one of those that reveals many of the arts and parts. And I'll say it again: Freemasons for Dummies. It's written by a 33rd degree Mason, and even his own lodge got pissed off at him for that book. And it is the single greatest gift a Freemason has ever given to non-Freemasons. I absolutely say read that book. And I'm even though I'm a Freemason, I'm very, very, very critical of Freemasonry. I'm very, very critical of different lodges. I will call people out on their bullshit, especially if they're a brother. I do not care. But as you know, for many non-Freemasons, to have the sort of veil, like lifted from your eyes and come into the illumination of what Freemasonry is versus what we are told from sort of like this reactionary. Those are the bad guys, basically at fault for everything that's bad happening in this world. It's a huge psyop. It's not, but they're like any other sort of group and everything. You're going to have your shitty Freemasons and your good Freemasons, but also at the same time you're going to have a lot of different other groups of Freemasons, people who call themselves Freemasons that are not actually recognized by the same school of Freemasons that George Washington comes from. The 1717 sort of group of Freemasons. But yeah, it's a very interesting world, and I didn't really understand it until I became one. And I mainly became one so I could better understand it and sort out through the bullshit and the distractions that people try to use to kind of hijack your own energy, getting you angry at a group of individuals who are not actually at fault for anything. So, and if are there any brothers and sisters in this room, how you doing? It's good to see you.
I definitely made a note of that book. One real quick thing I want to say is you kept referencing arts and parts, which that idiom is interesting to me, mostly just because it stuck in my brain as arts parts, referring to a bunch of the recovered like alien or ARV like materials, right? Isn't that one of the
Oh,
collections? Arts
yeah,
parts? I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe there's nothing. It just kind of set off a little flashbulb in my brain. But okay, that's it.
No, that's awesome that you put that together. That's really cool. That's so cool. I never even looked at it from particular perspective. I wonder if like a Freemason who is working in crash retrieval, who's also military or whatnot. It's like, is this on the level? If you've ever watched I Love Lucy, and you heard Fred Durst, basically Merce, whatever his name was, talk about, just say these like little interesting little quips like, "Hey, is this on the level?" That's actually a Freemason term, which is really interesting.
They hide it in the
So
raps. Gravity
they
Falls.
hide it in the
Actually, the
raps.
kids show Gravity Falls has a bunch of low-key Mason stuff in it
Oh,
too.
I'm
big time,
I'm I'm,
big time.
I'm just thinking about Fred Durst on I Love Lucy.
My brain went there too.
Um, what degree? What degree?
Myself, I'm an EA. I've been one for close to a decade now. Um, I approached the entire thing from the perspective of an individual who wanted to understand more. I haven't really had an interest to go up my degrees, mainly for the reason that I have a contentious relationship with my lodge. Um, Mainly for the reason that things keep changing. I actually want to switch lodges before I continue going up my degrees, but the only I would go as high as a master Mason, and then I would stop there. Even though I've been I've had friends of mine suggest that I actually go into the fourth degree, which is a very, very interesting area of Freemasonry. I'll give you an idea real quick. So Master Mason is third degree. EA is first degree. Yes, I'm first degree. One of the really interesting things about Freemasonry is that once you become a third degree, a Master Mason, you can then join the other groups. You can join the I can't even say it. York, there it is, York Lodge, the York branch of Freemasonry, or the Scottish Templar branch of Freemasonry. It's like two different hands of it. What's interesting about, say, for instance, going into the Scottish Rite, and I just really quickly, 1 minute, you automatically, when you become a member of the Scottish Rite, you become a 32nd degree Mason. So you go from third degree to 32nd degree. And there's a little bit of an interesting sort of dynamic with that, because after number 3, you don't actually go up the chart. You kind of bounce around in different places depending upon how long you've been and stuff. And the people that are within Freemasonry basically understand where that person has moved around, even though the numbers don't chronologically line up with one another. So it's everything after the third degree. And I can tell you this because, it's in the book. So.
I just wanted to break in and tell everybody I really, really appreciate you all coming in and speaking today. And everybody that listened. Margaret, it's so very, very nice to meet you. I gave you a follow, as well as you. I know you. So, um, Sarah, I really hope that you'll be comfortable enough to join us in these spaces. Would love to hear more voices. And I don't mean this any other way, but especially female voices. There just simply aren't enough women here sharing their experiences. And Margaret, definitely kudos. Thank you for your bravery. I'm fixing to have to close out, so I want to give everybody a chance to finish up the conversations and round out. Guy, your words mean so much to me, as always.
Yeah.
Love you, Megan. You guys rock.
I just wanted to ask, because I do struggle to communicate, but could I give, because I've never actually given my whole my whole story. Could I go through it with you, and we might do a space on it. It might be like one of my last decent spaces, to be honest.
I would
If
love
that's,
to. I would absolutely love to. Let's schedule that up.
yeah,
It's got to be a recorded space. That's the only, you know.
yeah, of course, that's fine. I do have some audio. I'll try and edit the hypnotherapy, because there's some parts that I don't want in it, but I'll share like the MRIs and different bits. What you say? I've got other friends who have also had TR3B experiences as well. one of them is from Brazil, Gustavo, and it'd be good to get contrasting people who've experienced and also had health issues like the same kind of as me. But yeah, I'll talk to you in DMs. But thank you so much, and lovely to see you, Megan, as well. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so good to see you both. Seriously, I'm so glad. The second I saw you were hosting a space bee, I was like, oh, I got to get in on that immediately. So I was very happy to see you hosting. I also hope you hold more of them. I would love to have a space where you, you know, talk with Guy about his experience. That would be very interesting to me. Let me know when it happens. I'll come and provide some psychic support and maybe talk too. But
Just quickly, I posted that the Yorkshire post about the 2 typhoons as well, just as a teaser to the encounter story.
Sounds awesome. And thank you so much. Definitely Megan for sure. Since we'll get something ironed out. I'm excited about that. I stopped hosting spaces. I mean, I tried a couple of years ago and then I just stopped because, just bull crap.
it can be a lot. It can be a lot. Makes you a target sometimes. Sorry, go ahead.
So much. I don't. Anyway, I'm trying. I just wanted to have a space for people to come to chat because, well, I wanted to chat and nobody was having a space. So, Bob's your uncle. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think this one went pretty well. Didn't get trolled. Not, good conversation. Low key, I was burning sage at various points and being
Right,
like,
the
demon,
positive
stay out.
negative. Those two, if we can get those two extremes to realize one, there is a common ground, but two, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're experiencing the same things, right? And that it's a plethora and it's a spectrum, and one doesn't negate the other and one doesn't validate the other, neither or, but it's a big, wide mystery, and we're all smack dab in the middle of it.
And what you
For sure.
what you always need for spaces as well is a co-host who's not totally super polite. You can just shut people down because people do like to talk.
Absolutely. And I try so hard not to be rude to anyone, but unless they deserve it, but then yeah. But yeah, the co-host is a must. The
I agree
co-host.
with you also, real quick, that, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say I totally agree with you in terms of like getting the two kind of like doomer and love and light sides. Like I think it's a false dichotomy. Both things are happening, and a lot of things exist on a spectrum. So I was actually really glad to hear some of that conversation starting to happen. I think it's an important, you know, topic to discuss. So I love you so much, B. Thank you for hosting this space today. It's been wonderful.
I love you too, Megan. Thank you. And with that, I bid adieu. Bye, guys.